Hi, I'm Michael Killen, and I think everyone should think about their town, their city, their state, their country's sustainability, climate action plans. And not every city or state has a climate action plan. I've invited Phil Bobel. He is the Assistant Director of Palo Alto's Public Works to come on this show, and he's going to answer a few questions about the direction of climate plans. And I've invited him because in the position he has, he's obviously a contributor to Palo Alto's climate sustainability plans. Phil, how are you today?
Good, thanks for having me.
Well, let me just ask you, what did you think about the opening? Did I position you and the topic?
Very nicely. I'm glad you mentioned both sustainability and climate action, because we've broadened what we used to call the climate action plan to include many other aspects of sustainability: water, zero waste.
So roughly how long has it been since your city, Palo Alto, been preparing climate plans? Let's just say climate plans. We'll get the sustainability into it in a second.
We kind of got started in about 2005. Our first plan was dated 2007. And now we just, in 2017, we just updated it, added these other features like water to it.
Why did your city make a climate plan in the first place?
Great question. Many of our citizens wanted it, really, when you boil it down. They sort of demanded that Palo Alto be a leader in this area. We as staff were thrilled to comply with that and prepare a plan. But I'd have to say our council, our residents, the whole Palo Alto community was advocates for a plan.
Sacramento is the head of our state. They did not put some pressure on you, encourage you to put a plan together?
Yeah, I'd say that's a secondary reason. Sure, give them a little credit.
Okay, so you're saying your plan has evolved since 2005 or so. And I know you mentioned a little bit of this. Why has it evolved to a different name? Would you go over that again for us?
Well, instead of being just climate action, which implies greenhouse gases and the warming of the planet, important as that is, there's water and trying to come up with enough water, high quality. There's reducing the amount of waste that we produce. There's protecting the environment, the natural environment, and our urban forest. So there's these other aspects that we've added to now, most recently in 2017, and given it this name of a sustainability/climate action plan.
So you've broadened the scope
Exactly.
of it to include other elements of the community or the area. And are you folks in Palo Alto, again, trying to be the leader in all aspects of that plan?
No, I don't think we can claim we're leading the way in all aspects of it. Other people, other cities, communities have also now got sustainability plans.
Okay. What about the state's climate plan? And, you know, I really haven't prepped you to be prepared for this. Has it evolved?
Well, I was just looking today at their proposed update, and they've changed the numbers, and they're assuming more reductions than before, but I didn't find any fundamentally new programs in there in a quick search. So I'd have to say their evolution, they're still focusing on greenhouse gases. It's not a sustainability. You'll find water in a separate plan for the most part, But water does interface with energy, right? It takes energy to get water from point A to point B.
Oh, yes.
So there's a bunch of crossovers there, and they do address that.
What about now the state, waste management?
Right. So there's not as much focus in there on waste management, even though, again, you can tie it to greenhouse gases, because if you throw stuff in a landfill, then you have to go back and mine new products. Well, that takes energy, right? And that energy produces CO2. So there is a tie to waste management as well, and the goal is zero waste. So they do address it.
Okay, I have a question that might not be a good answer. You know, I'm fascinated with Palo Alto's climate sustainability plan, but I'm also fascinated with California's climate plan. What is the most important quality of California's plan?
Well, to me, the most important kind of assumption is how much of the fleet in the state, how many of these vehicles are going to get converted to electric vehicles? Because that's a key. If we transform, if the whole state, as Palo Alto already has, transforms itself into using only renewable electricity, and then we transform the fleet into electric vehicles, you can argue we've sort of eliminated. So the state has done the same thing. The state, a major part of their plan is the assumption of conversion to electric vehicles.
Okay, to get away from petroleum and to use electricity, and assuming that electricity is generated by clean energy sources. But now you're saying that is probably number one now for the state, is to electrify the cars, and that would have the most significant benefit in reducing greenhouse gases. What about Palo Alto?
It's even more important in Palo Alto. I was just looking at the state numbers, and they're assuming that about 40% of the greenhouse gases comes from the vehicles, the transportation sector. In Palo Alto, it's 60%. So we've done a good enough job in other areas that our percentage is now even greater coming from transportation, where we've still got a ways to go. So 40% at the state level, 60% of emissions in Palo Alto coming from vehicles.
Okay, so car manufacturers probably all know this. You know, California is about the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world, and we have a lot of cars, and our government, including you, are working to force or create a new opportunity for the car manufacturers and the battery manufacturers to give us a whole new generation. We're going to make this transfer to the electric car industry. Probably you folks want to do it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so our main goal is to have an 80% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2030. And a major assumption there is that we are going to get this transformation to electric vehicles.
Could you say that goal again?
80% reduction by 2030, an 80% reduction from our baseline year of 1990.
And what is the state's goal?
The state, by that same year, 2030, has a goal of 40% reduction. So we're being a lot more aggressive than the state.
Yeah, which is typical of you folks. All right, I want to say you've answered all of my questions, and unless you have a question of me or you want to make another statement, I'm going to let you go home to your family.
Well, I would ask you, well, what do you think the most important thing is that we've got to do to prevent future collapse of our planet?
Well, that's a big question, and I think a lot of it falls into education, finding a way to educate the people about where we are right now, where we are heading, and to get them somehow to buy in to help create new infrastructures that are more sustainable and energy efficient. And I think it would be wise if every state that does not have a sustainability plan, climate sustainable, they ought to take a look at California's plan. And I think every city in the state ought to take a look at what Palo Alto is doing and try to adopt whatever they can from California's plan, from Palo Alto's plan, to help assure a wonderful future for all of us. All right, I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Jo Killen, how are you?
Hello, nice to see you, Michael.
Hey, thanks for coming. And, you know, I've made a few shows now with this, what do you call this?
Well, that is a piece of stoneware pottery, ceramic art, and it's a piece that's made to be in your home for aesthetic enjoyment, and possibly you could add flowers to it if you wanted as well.
Okay.
But with or without, it should bring you pleasure.
And you made that?
Yes.
And the technique?
I do all of my work on the wheel, and then I'll often distort the work after it's been thrown. This is a fairly straightforward piece.
I just want to make a comment, but you correct me because you have a greater art background than I. This thing about distorting, it's like what some artists do, they paint like a photograph, okay, of reality, you know, the landscape, seascape, building, whatever people. That's one way of making art. And then one could say they strive to distort it, to make whatever it is more interesting. And again, you may disagree with me. Is that what you did? You used the wheel to maybe make something that almost any good artist could make, and then you tried to change it to make it special. No?
It's always a challenge. This particular piece and the series that I've been doing lately falls within a fairly traditional boundaries, but a lot of my work is more extreme. Peter Volkas was a ceramic artist in the 50s and 60s who would actually take clay and a piece like this, throw it on the ground, distort it, break it apart, and turn it into more sculptural pieces. So the answer is yes, sometimes you do that and sometimes you don't do that. What I'm trying to do with these pieces is a little more subtle. If you'll notice with the, I don't know if the audience can see this, but with the glazes, they're poured on. And I'm trying to, my aesthetic comes very strongly from influence of Asian art. The patterns that I'm trying to make with the glazes are done in such a way that they accentuate the shape and the form of the piece.
Wonderful. Now there's an art exhibition coming up in San Anselmo, California, and that's on the northern side of the Golden Gate Bridge, a little past Sausalito, right next to San Rafael. I know the area well. And you and another artist are featured, and the gallery is?
The gallery is the Desta Gallery on San Anselmo Avenue in San Anselmo. And the show is called The Art of Dwelling. And I'm going to be featured with another artist who's a painter named Jeffrey Long. And the interesting thing is that I think the topic is really quite apropos, because Jeffrey does paintings that take the rooftop landscape of San Francisco and creates a semi-abstract paintings of rooftops. And anyway, his work is about outside of the dwelling, and my work goes inside a dwelling.
So you got the honor to represent the inside. Now,
yes.
I want to just say something. Before you were invited to come here, I spoke to the woman, Annabeth Korn, who runs that gallery, and she, I found, is very socially conscious. She wants to do galleries that help promote people's thinking about the need to do good things, for the environment, human rights, etc. So I think it's interesting. It's dwellings. She's thinking about where we're going, no doubt, with our houses and things. And I think it's a great honor that she included you. I want to ask it to represent the interior. We have some photos of a couple of your other pieces of art that will be at the Desta
Gallery in San Anselmo.
Yeah, and I was wondering if the crew, we have a nice crew here. Can we see one of the photos of, oh, here, okay. So this isn't, there it is up there. How long does it take you to make something like that?
Well, it's like painting a room. Making it doesn't take that long, but the duration is quite long because you have to, after you've thrown the piece, which might take maybe maybe 15 minutes to throw it, but then you have to wait till it dries, which can take several days, a week, depending on the temperatures. Then it's fired twice, so the duration is several weeks.
Okay.
And aside from that, it takes about 20 years to learn to make something
Really?
like this.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very, there's a lot of skill involved, and it takes time to develop that skill.
And I think people who aren't involved in art may not recognize how long it takes to develop the skill to be able to produce this and other art.
Yes.
Sometimes for some people a lifetime.
Yes.
I think we have another photo, and here it is. It's very interesting. And is it about the same height as this one?
Yes, these vary in size from 15 to maybe 25 inches tall. So it's very hard to judge that from the photographs. But so there's quite a variation in height, but they're all based on the same glazes, the same sort of theme.
All right.
And
would you remind me the name of the gallery again in San Anselmo?
the Desta Gallery in San Anselmo. Emma Bett Korn is the curator and owner of the gallery, and she shows emerging and established artists.
You mentioned that she has selected a San Francisco artist to present paintings.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say I'm insulted she didn't ask me. No, I'm delighted. And his name again is?
Jeffrey Long. He's a San Francisco artist.
And I looked him up on the web. He is a fine artist, and I've looked at the number of museums and galleries. I mean, it's a whole page. So she, besides you, she selected really a fine visual artist, a painter. I was wondering if we could see one of his paintings right now. All right, let's take a look at that. And I know you also have a painter background, you know, in a lot of fields. What do you see there? Can you tell me anything there that I should recognize as being good?
Well, I think one of the exciting things for me about that painting and the series that I've seen of his is there's a wonderful sense of place. When you look at his paintings, you can identify San Francisco. Some of the additional ones more so than this one, perhaps. But he's taken, there's a vibrancy, they're very alive, and they are semi-abstract. He's on the way to abstraction. And I like that tension between representational art and then the pull towards more abstract patterns. It's very pleasing.
Okay. And I have a granddaughter named Isabella, who is, I think, 13 right now. And she sort of grew up with me. She reads paintings. How would she read? Could we have that painting back for a minute? she reads the direction the eye takes. And how would I read that painting? Right in the center? Should I start on the right? Should I start on the left?
You're asking about the composition of the painting?
Yes.
Well, it's nicely composed, and I think it might be best to ask her that question.
Or, well, yes, but I'm going to go to the opening night of that event in San Anselmo.
Yes.
And do you know?
I should give the dates,
Yeah.
yes. The show is opening on January 19th. It closes on March 16th. And the opening reception is going to be on January 26th from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening. So I do hope people will be able to come. I think it's going to be a wonderful show. And you mentioned earlier, one of the very nice things about this gallery is that Emma wants it to be a place for community events. She, in addition to having exhibitions, she has poetry readings. She recently held an event to raise money for the fire victims in Santa Rosa, and she has speakers who come. So she very much sees this as a way to bring community together through art and through the conversation that occurs around art. So, you know, I'm really very pleased to be part of this effort and hope it's a great success for her.
Yes, and I was wondering, could we have another photo of Jeffrey's work?
I see the abstract patterns emerge that are very pleasing. It's a very upbeat, very wonderful painting, I think, to live with.
Yes, it would be nice. Yeah, it's easy to take, and what I see is he's framed it on the right and left with the green, the trees and everything, and he has it pointed right at the bottom, and it just pulls my eye in, and the strong blue further pulls my eye in. That's what my granddaughter would probably say. And what would you say about it? You just...
Well, I just think it's a very nice painting. And the color, his sense of color is just very, very good. And
yeah.
the space that it creates, it's a very nice, it's a painting with a lot of feeling in it.
Yeah. And I'm looking at his use of orange, the rooftops, and I can see it's pulling my eye around to different places, and then he has yellow. And he sort of has another pathway, which I think, you know, it's really, when guests come to somebody's house who has a painting like this, there's a lot to talk about.
Yes, yes.
Now, do we have another photo of his work? Wow.
Yeah. This is a wonderful, the series that you're showing is interesting because you do see the progression into more and more abstraction. He's taken the rooftops and, you know, it's becoming more of a pattern. And again, very well done.
Yes, and do you have a sense of how big these are? I don't.
I can't give you the exact dimensions, but they're fairly large.
Okay.
These are not small paintings.
So this is called The Dwellings.
The Art of Dwelling is the name of the exhibition that's coming up.
And he's focused on the outside.
The outside, and my ceramics are about the inside.
Good.
So,
Now, as you know, I'm not in the world of functionality and art. Where is this? Is this a functional product?
this is a functional piece of pottery. By functional meaning that you can use it for something. And the traditions of pottery and really came through dishes and cups and things like this, items that were used in the home. And it's often been restricted to that area. And taking it into the fine art area is considered by some curators to be a difficult move. But a lot of ceramic art now is considered to be fine art. And there's a very narrow line between what is functional and what is fine art. A lot of it is sculptural too, and which is completely fine art.
Yeah. So I, of course, think differently than you. To me, it's fine art, but I guess you add it's functional because you probably did something inside of it and put a hole in it, so people could put a liquid in it or stems of flowers. That
Yes. Yeah, it's been glazed on the inside, so you could put. But I myself see it more as a fine art piece.
Yeah, that's
that you can use in your home and find beauty in it and bring you pleasure.
Yeah.
And I think of it less as a functional piece. But unfortunately, when people see this, they'll say, "Oh, can I put flowers in it?" So,
sure.
and it's nice to be able to say, "Yes, you can if you choose." But most people,
Good.
I would actually prefer that it
lovely,
didn't have
lovely.
flowers in it.
We're wrapping up now.
Okay.
Remind me of the name of the gallery and tell me when it starts and when is the reception.
It's the Desta Gallery in San Anselmo, California. It opens January 19th through March 16th, and the opening reception is January 26th from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. And I do hope people will come.
All right, thank you very much. My guest has been Jo Killen, and I'm Michael, and I want to say thank you very much, Jo, for sharing this with you. Okay.
Thank you.